They lived by the sword, and they died by it. Honor was their heartbeat, loyalty their breath. They were called the samurai. Long before the neon glow of Tokyo, before Japan became a modern empire of steel and speed, there was a land divided by mountains and pride, a land of cherry blossoms and blood. The emperor sat far away in Kyoto, bathed in beauty and poetry, while beyond the capital, chaos reigned. Warlords battled for power, bandits ruled the countryside. And in this storm of conflict, a new kind of man emerged, one who would fight not for wealth, but for duty. He was the servant of his lord, the protector of his clan, the keeper of honor. That man was the samurai. From childhood, he was trained to see death not as an end, but as a companion. His mornings began before sunrise, with silent meditation and the sound of steel whispering from its sheath. To him, the sword was not just a weapon, it was the soul itself, pure, disciplined, and unyielding. Each cut of the blade was a prayer, each motion a meditation. He lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior. It was not written on paper, but carved into the heart. Courage, loyalty, honor, compassion. These were not choices, they were truths. A samurai was bound to serve his master even beyond death. To disobey was to lose everything, his name, his pride, his spirit. And so when disgrace came, he did not run. He turned inward, bowed to eternity, and ended his life by his own hand. Seppuku, the ritual suicide, was not an act of despair, but the highest expression of loyalty. To the world it was madness, to the samurai it was beauty. As centuries passed, their legend grew. The age of emperors faded, and in its place rose the age of the shoguns. The shogun ruled Japan not through poetry or prayer, but through power, and the samurai were his instrument. Castles rose across the land, banners of clans fluttered against the wind, and armies of armored men swore their lives to their lords. But the samurai were not mere soldiers. They were philosophers of war. Between battles, they wrote poetry, painted calligraphy, and performed the tea ceremony with grace as precise as their strikes. They believed that true mastery of the sword required mastery of the soul, and so they lived balanced between beauty and brutality, between art and death. They fought through centuries of blood, through the chaos of civil wars, until Japan was united under one banner. Peace finally came under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. But peace to the warrior was both a blessing and a curse. The swords that once sang in battle now rested quietly beside scrolls and ink. The samurai became scholars, administrators, and teachers. Yet beneath the calm, something within them withered. For what is a warrior without war? Then, across the sea came change. Western ships appeared on Japan's horizon, black hulls, iron bodies, smoke rising into the sky. They brought new ideas, new faiths, and weapons that made swords seem ancient. Guns and cannons, machines that killed from afar, without honor, without skill. For the samurai, it was an insult to everything they stood for. But history does not wait for pride. The winds of the modern world had arrived, and Japan would not be the same again. The Meiji Restoration began, a revolution not of swords, but of ideas. The emperor declared that Japan would step into the new world. The shogun's power was dissolved. The samurai class was abolished. Their armor, once symbols of prestige, became museum relics. Their swords, once their very souls, were banned from the streets. Overnight, the proud warriors of centuries became men without purpose. Some adapted, They joined the new imperial army, trading their katanas for rifles. Others could not. They refused to abandon their code, their honor, their way. And so they faded, some quietly, some in rebellion, some with one final strike of the blade that had defined their lives. The age of the samurai ended not in battle, but in silence. The world had no more room for men who lived and died for honor. Yet in their fall they became eternal. Their spirit, their discipline, their devotion to principle, these did not die. They flowed into the soul of Japan itself. Even today you can still hear them, in the calm patience of a craftsman shaping steel, in the quiet bow of a student before his teacher, in the unspoken promise of loyalty kept. The spirit of Bushido lingers, invisible yet immortal. The samurai are gone. Their castles crumble, their armor rusts, but their essence, honor, courage, and the beauty of sacrifice still breathes through the land they once guarded. They were not just warriors, they were poets of discipline, artists of death, and guardians of the soul. They lived by the sword, and they died by it. But in their fall, they taught the world the greatest lesson of all, that even when the blade breaks, honor never does.